If you've been following this channel for some time, you will know that I am reading every single Man Booker winner, making reviews of them and providing them to you. Now, how I choose these books are predominantly done via polls, which I put up on my Instagram, which I'll link below. And this book lost 4 times. It seems as though no one wanted me to read this, though incidentally it's one that I've always secretly wanted to read. That book is The White Tiger, the debut novel of Aravind Adiga, which won the Man Booker in 2008. Personally, I have some issues with this book, which we'll touch on later down the line. But if you're looking for an introduction to Indian literature, if you want to learn a broad amount in a short space of time, Adiga's novel will tick a lot of boxes. This book is a case that good literature does not have to be taxing on the reader. It does not have to be difficult. All it has to do is for you to understand what is going on in the society of India and its criticism in that. And The White Tiger does that. Our main protagonist is Balram Halwai, who is from a low class. But as we start this book, we see how he rises from the low class. Even that class is dictated by his last name, Halwai, which Adiga explains means a sweet maker. His last name, according to the caste systems, dictates his entire life. So he is to make sweets until his dying days. That's all he's allowed to do. But Balram's father gave up on that business in order to pull a rickshaw. So Balram, even though his name, his destiny, his fate was to always create sweets, he's never actually had that opportunity. And what Balram wants to do is be better than that. He wants to succeed like all humans want to. They want to do themselves better than their given situation. They want to strive for more. And we see Balram at the beginning of this novel, a successful entrepreneur, and he is writing to the premier Wen Jiabao. Upon finishing this book, I went through some reviews and was quite surprised that many people were confused of who Wen Jiabao was. Is he a businessman? Is he a colleague of Balram's? Or is he a up-and-coming Chinese entrepreneur who is in a similar situation? Trust me, a quick Google search will clarify that he was the Prime Minister of China during this time. He is the Premier. He is the leader of the country, and Balram wants to educate him about India, of how he has been able to make his money. Well, here's a quick talking point. Why does Balram feel the need to tell Wen Jiabao his story? Could someone from China write to their own government criticizing them, understanding the disparities between the absolute poor and the absolute wealthy? Have a think about that one. Alas, Balram is going to tell Jiabao his story for how he became a wanted man, how he was able to kill his master to become the entrepreneur that he is today. And let's talk about that word master, because what we see here is the absolute divide between the rich and the poor, and how the caste system plays into this. Adiga's playing with 3 metaphors at the same time throughout this novel. The metaphor of the white tiger, where the book gets its name from, the rooster coop, and then darkness and lightness. And we'll talk about each of those concurrently. From a young age, Balram has always shown that he has a prowess. He has something in him that makes him different from all the other kids in his hometown, and he is gifted the name the White Tiger, a animal that is rare, an animal that comes once in a generation. And Balram is that once in a generation person who is able to supersede through the ranks. Side note, this is where I think metaphor is quite heavy-handed. Balram goes to a zoo to see a white tiger, and they both look at each other in the eyes, and Balram faints because he's seen the person that he is. It's very force of hand. Though in my next sentence we're going to say that there's a metaphor that I absolutely adored, which is that of the rooster coop, because when a rooster is taken out of the coop and killed, the other roosters look on and watch their fellow die, and they understand that they are next. But the roosters are never petrified, they're never in carnage, they're calm. It's as if they have relinquished their right to protest this circumstance. They just understand that is the natural thing, that they are going to die. The rooster understands the role that it plays in life, and it is subservient to the human. The roosters understand that this is their life, this is their duty, this is their lifeblood. They are roosters, they are to die at the hands of humans. There's no reason to argue that, there's no reason to protest, to shake up the natural things. Therefore, they are submissive, they are almost servants to us. Which is a lovely segue, if I do say so myself, into the next metaphor of darkness and lightness. Adiga writes that Balram lives in the darkness, where the poorest, the unprivileged, the uneducated, the lowest of lowest castes, the main objective is to leave the darkness, be that the literal and the metaphorical space that it takes up, and move into the light, where the high classes are, the rich, the people with all the power. Darkness, lightness, and the white tiger are extended metaphors, but they are spoon-fed to you all the time. Adiga wants you to realize when the darkness is, when the lightness is, and the role of the white tiger. For me, it severely detracts from the message of this book. This is a plot-heavy book, so I'm going to skim most of the details here, but all you need to know is that Balram understands that there is a situation where he can get a job in the home of a higher class, allowing the truth to be twisted, saying white lies, some sycophantism, and general manipulation. Balram sees himself in a prized position. He is the driver to Ashok. Ashok and his partner Pinky Madam in a very unique position, but in order to understand what Adiga is doing in that sense, let's talk about Ashok's father first. The Stork. The Stork and his brother the Mongoose have expectations of certain caste members, and Balram being from a very low class, he is expected to give a level of servitude. He's able to, a servitude which comes with high expectations, high standards, and high risk for Balram's family, because if he was dishonest, if he was distrustful, if he was to deceive Ashok's family in any way, Balram's family would get the axe. However, with Ashok's and Pinky Madam's worldview being different from traditional values, they allow Balram to have a sense of freedom that otherwise he would not be able to obtain. And Balram uses that to his advantage later on in the novel, because there is a moment in this book that changes Balram's view, changes his mindset, and makes him focus on the reason of why he is going to become a rich, successful man at any cost. Now, if you see the film of The White Tiger, which is on Netflix, the beginning section of the film is this pivotal moment. And when I finished this book, I sat down to watch the film the next day, under 12 hours. And if you cannot obtain a copy of this book for some reason, or you don't have the money, watch the film. The film is pretty spot on. Yes, reading this will give you some nuances and a greater depth, but I don't think you're going to miss out on the key points, the key messages, and the key arguments and criticisms that this book raises. So watch the film 100%. Sorry for the tangent, let's backtrack. Balram notices through observations, through living in Mr. Ashok's house, through driving him to certain places, through speaking to him, the higher castes have their powers because they are able to bribe their way through. Anyone is susceptible to a good bribe, be that a servant, be that someone on the street, be that the police, the government, any form of minister. If you have the money, you could sway things your way. Balram is telling Wenjai Bao that India is the largest democracy in the world, but everything that Balram is telling you about India would make you understand that that is far, far, so far from the actual truth. Because if there was a democracy, you wouldn't have the poorest of people becoming poorer, and you wouldn't have the richest people becoming even richer. Balram mentions multiple times to Premier Jai Bao that India is the largest democracy in the world. But everything that you're being told would highlight and make you very aware that India cannot be democratic, because in a democracy you would not have the poorest people becoming poorer day by day, while the rich and the wealthy gain even more money day after day after day. Having the presence of a great socialist would bring this canyon between the rich and the poor, and see how close you can bring them together. But, and I want to stress as a Brit, though at the moment we are in a time of austerity, it is nothing in comparison to what is going on in India. I keep saying that this gap is so wide, and I'm saying it as simply as that because I cannot put into words how big that gap is. It is on a scale that you cannot imagine, or if you can, you're very lucky, because I can't. The poor are literally pushed to the margins. And let's talk about a current affair that is going on in India at this present moment in time, the farmer riots. And the reason I'm aware of it is that I follow people who are living in India on social media or by Instagram. It's not in the newspapers, it's not on the news. Without listening to people who live in India, I would have no clue about this, and maybe you don't have a clue about what's going on in India. So let me enlighten you in a very nutshell approach of how this democracy, the world's largest democracy, is currently running. Previously, the government set a minimum baseline of the price that farmers could sell their crops, their produce, all their agricultural goods. What's happened at the moment is that the government has put in place a private party where the farmers can now sell direct to them, where there's no price set. So this independent body can theoretically charge whatever they want for food, completely destroying livelihoods, destroying business. But for the independent party involved, they can make a lot of profit. They can make a lot of money. And as we've discussed, if you have a lot of money, you can sway things your way. Currently, farmers are on strike for that. How has the government responded? Tear gas. Think back to the rooster coop. Reflect on that. Adiga showcases the violence between these binaries through a very compelling, easy to read story, and it's very easy to get caught up in class. But one thing that happens that I don't think is touched on again is the religious divide between the Hindus and the Muslims. Now, all of this stems back even before the partition, but the partition of India definitely emphasised and reinforced this hatred. The stork is staunch that he does not want any Muslims working for him. Balram finds someone in the house who has been working there for a long time and has been purposefully hiding his religion. Balram uses that in order to weed him out and to move himself closer to Ashok. Again, Ashok's on this interesting level because he's unaware, not unaware, I suppose he's not too focused on people's religion, and there's a moment where Balram touches his eye and rubs his head, and Ashok's like, that's a thing Hindus do when they see something sacred, what is it? And Balram has to work on his feet and just makes up that he's past the sacred tree. It's a nonchalant gesture that means nothing, but it does show that modern people who are looking to widen their worldview, looking to understand more about different cultures, different religions, are more accepting as a whole. There's not a strict doctrine that you have to hate this or this is the way you have to live, that we are constantly challenging ourselves. We are constantly challenging what is put in front of us. Everything that you think is a given or a standard could always be challenged, and it might take someone once in a generation, a white tiger, to come along and showcase, undermine and pinpoint the flaws in that system. You might feel as though you're stuck in a rut and are one of many who are in a rooster coop. But it only takes one person to have a voice. For this book, I give it an 8 out of 10. Again, watch the film. If you cannot get a copy of this, it is outstanding. For an introduction to Indian literature, I would highly recommend you seek this out. Down below, please see some more reviews of this book. Would highly recommend you check them out and subscribe. They're fantastic content creators. Additionally, check out my Instagram, where on the day that this review is live, there will be a poll for you to choose the next Man Booker winner for me to read. And of course, again, I'll see you next time. Bye.